8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pinche Gringo Show. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight to our program. We have a lot to talk about, but first I want to talk about the word pinche, a word that in the Spanish dictionary means the assistant to the chef. And it's something I talked about at length on a previous episode. Take a look. All right, but seriously, listen to me. And please listen to me, the American who speaks little Spanish but is Latino because your grandmother was born in a small town in Jalisco, to stop giving gringos with absolutely no Spanish except for hasta la vista or quesadilla the wrong translation of the word. And even if it was the F word, even if it is a little insulting to us, don't we deserve it? Didn't we invade Mexico like 150 times? Like, yeah, Wikipedia it. I bet you never heard of the pastry war. Haven't we insulted Mexican cuisine with crispy tacos, with shredded American cheese, ground beef, and lettuce? Don't we go to beaches and yell loudly because yelling loudly makes people understand our English better? Now, I'm always up for a battle. I spent 5.5 years battling Mexico's intellectual property office, and I won. But Google Translate, Facebook's legal department, multinational corporations, censors from media companies, and Barbara from the US, who was offended by air, are just too strong. So I'm raising the white flag. I am surrendering. You win, political correctness. We're dropping the name Pinche from the program. So from now on, we are just the Gringo Show. So let's start again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gringo Show. We have a great show for you tonight, and let's start with our top story about this America-loving gringo who doesn't give a damn. He's a straight shooter, tells it like it is, and plays by his own rules. He doesn't take crap from anyone, especially Joe Biden. Say, what's on your mind, Donald Trump? Well, mind filters are for wussies. No, but seriously. I don't know if you were watching on Tuesday night, but if you were, you could have thought you were watching 5-year-olds playing soccer or slapstick comedy from the 1920s like that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was a clip from Tuesday night's debate. The greatness of America was on display on Tuesday night. The shining light on top of the hill, the bastion of democracy, of decency, respect, and the example for the rest of the world.
And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So, Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe.
Clowns across the globe were insulted and offended when former Vice President Joe Biden lobbed this insult at the president.
You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this
Hey, let me just say, Joe.
I love it how he corrected himself, like, this jerk, I mean Pope. The most disturbing part of the night was when Trump declined to denounce white supremacy and made a shout out to a group called the Proud Boys. It's not the name of a Wetstop group of gays getting ready to hit the Pride Parade. The Proud Boys are a right-wing extremist group, and he said this to them.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call them What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
white
you like me to condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by.
Stand back and stand down. And stand by, excuse me. Just another example of how various political leaders are inciting possible violence for after the election. Trump also went after debate moderator Chris Wallace, who's surprising, supposed to be playing for his team, is the anchor of favorite TV channel Fox News. And they're being against him.
So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
All right. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me.
And the icing on the cake when Biden went after Trump for making offensive remarks, calling members of the military who died in the war losers and suckers. In response, Trump went after Biden's son, who had a personal struggle of drug abuse.
I'm talking about my son, Beau Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Beau. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions?
I don't even know what to say here. I'm embarrassed to be on this program tonight, even talking about this debate. And it's not even about Trump or Biden. I'm ashamed of our democracy, of our institutions, and how it has been degraded to a reality TV show. Or maybe it was just another episode of Doña Flor y sus dos maridos. I mean, the biggest controversy in the Mexico debates in 2018 was the presence of models, but it was civil, it was respectful. Anyway, a debate watching event was held at Pinche Gringo Barbecue Warehouse, where both Mexicans and Americans gathered to watch this monstrosity. We now go to our segment of Chilango Land with our very own Javier Negrete.
So, welcome everyone. Today is the first debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. We're going to interview some people to know who has what it takes to be the president of the United States. Come with me to find it out.
I think that Trump probably got his hair fixed up. What his tax return said that was what, like $70,000 for his hair?
Something like that.
So
Trump probably spent it in a tanning booth because he looks extremely orange. Looks good. I mean, it looks good.
that is just as much of a toss-up as this election is going to be. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to go Biden just because of all of the McDonald's that Trump eats.
Well, okay, I'm going to say Biden because we all know that Trump has small hands, and so...
Contest? Him or me? Or Biden?
And Trump said he couldn't go to Vietnam because he had bone spurs. I'm afraid that maybe former Vice President Joe Biden might have the upper edge there.
So I would say Trump, just based on a cheating fact.
I think Biden because he's an army veteran father, so I think he'll win.
I think Chris Wallace is winning the debate.
Chris Wallace is for sure winning the debate.
Yeah. Whoever screams loudest, it seems.
I don't know. It's gonna be hard to see who comes out as the winner of the debate because it's just all been yelling and screaming.
I think we're all losers at this point.
So that was the first round. The winner is still undecided. If you want to know more about this contest, stay tuned. Back to you, Dan. See you next week.
Thanks, Javier, for your report. For more comments on the debate, let's go to Kenneth Smith, former chief negotiator for Mexico for the USMCA and partner at Aegon Consulting and frequent contributor to the Gringo Show. Thanks so much for joining us, Kenneth, again. I always love having you on the show. I don't like your sports teams, but I like your politics. And Kenneth, what's going on here? Especially, your name is Kenneth Smith. It sounds like a guy that came to the U.S. on the Mayflower, but you are Mexican. So as a Mexican watching the show in Mexico, how do you feel about this? What was going through your mind when you were watching the debate?
Well, Dan, the thing is, the entire world, I think, was waiting with bated breath to watch this debate. And it was truly painful to watch at times. Like you said, I mean, it was just a screaming match. I think the strategies on both sides were clear. I think Vice President Biden was looking to just withstand the attacks from Trump. He knew they were coming. He tried to look presidential and tried to discuss the issues. So I think those were the moments where he looked the strongest, when he looked at the camera and addressed the American people while Trump was yelling and screaming. I think Trump knew he was against the ropes and had a lot of problems coming his way on the recent news that he doesn't pay taxes, etc. So he tried to blow up the debate from the get-go, and try to go with his usual mode of showing strength and what he considers to be leadership. The big problem here is that Trump is losing in the polls. So he needed to gain ground. He needed to make inroads with some of those 12 to 15% of undecideds that are still remain in the election. And the reality is that after the debate, the polls didn't change at all. 2 days after the debate, on average, Biden still has about an 8-point lead. And I think if you look at the scorecard, the areas where Biden did well, I think it was in the discussion on the handling of the COVID crisis and emphasizing the 200,000 deaths, the discussion on the health plan, talking about how Trump wants to take away coverage for people, millions of people with pre-existing conditions, the discussion about the veterans and how Trump has discussed, their standing in society. But I think Biden looked weak, and Trump scored a few points on the discussion on the Supreme Court nominee. I think Trump made him lose his temper a couple of times. Calling him a clown, saying "shut up, man," things like that. If there's a second debate, Biden's gonna have to sort of keep his cool. But I'm not sure there's going to be another debate. I mean, it really serves no purpose, and like you say, it's really a disservice to democracy.
Right. I mean, I know that the Presidential Commission, Debate Commission, had said that they're going to adjust the rules. They haven't been open about exactly what rules they're going to change. And also, it seems interesting that there's some snap polls that happening this week. But what we're hearing is that over the weekend, we're going to see some more definitive polls. And what the pundits are saying is that Trump really lost this debate because he did not look presidential. I don't even know if this is a surprise to anybody, but it seems that Biden had the advantage in keeping his cool, looking presidential. And Trump's strategy was to cut him off because I think he knew that Biden had a lot of things that he had to say against them. So by cutting him off, that was going to be better. Tell me more about what you thought about that.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is that Trump didn't gain any ground. And like you say, he tried to sort of, with bluster and interrupting permanently, showed strength, but he really seemed more unhinged than usually. And I think he knows he's in trouble. He's against the ropes. A lot of Republicans are walking away from him. I mean, I still believe the election is going to be closer than it looks in the polls. I mean, I think there's a lot of hidden Trump votes, a lot of people that want to vote for him still, but every time it's getting harder and harder to come out in public and support someone who gives a shout out on national TV to a white supremacist group. I mean, that's really way off bounds for anybody in the Republican Party. But still, you still have a nucleus of 30 to 35,000, 35% of U.S. voters that are likely to vote for Trump. I still think he's going to lose, but it's going to be closer than we think.
It's going to be interesting. Last question for you. Mexico, it seems like the debate in 2018, as I mentioned before, yeah, there were a couple models on it, but it seemed a lot more presidential, the Mexican debate, than the American debate.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's the case. And even though we had some characters that belong in the circus too, like the Nuevo León governor, El Bronco, who made jokes and outrageous remarks throughout the debates. But the reality is that this should be instituted in the U.S. debates. The microphone would go off after the 2 minutes where the candidates had a chance to speak. So essentially, you were just cut off. If you went overboard or tried to interrupt other people. Maybe that's something I should bring to the next debate if there is a debate. But just in closing, I think the future of the U.S. economy and of the world is at stake in this election. So for Mexico, it's very important to figure out what is the direction that the U.S. is going to take in the future. And my own personal opinion is that a return to some sort of sanity, to an institutional relationship with the U.S., and especially rebuilding those bridges that Trump has completely blown up with international organizations and the world order, would be beneficial to Mexico and to the world. So definitely, hopefully Biden will be the winner of this one.
Hey. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Nope. I heard the video, but not you. I hear something now.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
We can hear you. All right. This is what happens with live TV, guys. You know, like this setup during quarantine. Wasim, how are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Good. All right. We're back on track again. This is good. Wasim, I have to ask you a question. You are a Latino on the border. Roma, Texas, in Stark County, Texas, unfortunately, has really been ravaged by COVID-19. It's one of the highest rates of COVID per capita in the United States. You have border walls being built in your backyards, but you're still supporting Trump for president of the United States. Tell us why.
Right. So I can't blame the president for the response in Stark County. You know, there's 254 counties in the state of Texas and 50 other states. So individually, I think each county should be held liable and accountable for their response to coronavirus. And I did grow up in Stark County. There was, you know, the medical officer, medical director, or the health authority in Stark County resigned in the middle of the pandemic. But I think it's more of our culture has it conditions that are more what's the word I'm looking for? They don't their health conditions aren't the best that they should because of they're reactive to their health instead of proactive. So
I understand that, but you have a Republican governor, right? A Republican administration, and no one has been elected for statewide office in Texas for many, many years. So you have a Republican administration and a Republican administration in the White House. So who do you blame for the reason why the Rio Grande Valley is being on this? I mean, it's pretty clear to me that as a Latino supporting immigrant causes, because I'm sure your parents or grandparents or someone in your generations did cross the border and were able to come here and to get legal status, and now Trump is stopping that. So tell me more.
You know, yeah, so I'm a big believer in local authority and each county and state having their own authority. There was some issues with the governor and local counties, but he seemed to kind of ease off on those orders to allow counties to operate in their own way. So down here, we've been a one-party system in the Rio Grande Valley. It's been a one-party system since Reconstruction, and the local party that is in charge has not been held accountable. And you can't generalize and blame it on everyone, but there are some people while in office that cast votes on certain health bills or sit on certain state legislature public health committees that just didn't prepare for this type of emergency coronavirus. So it really does come down to local control.
That's okay. So, and you think that Trump as president would be able to affect that and change that? Like, what would he do to affect the health situation and the health crisis that is going on in the Rio Grande Valley?
What would he do to help the health crisis in the valley? Well, I think there has to be, he's authored legislation to allow farmers to send food boxes to anyone during coronavirus. There's a lot of nonprofits that have been distributing vegetable food boxes, dairy and meat, to people that are affected by COVID. So that was a great program that the USDA put together to just kind of feed people with stuff that is grown locally, and is part of the important food groups. And when it comes to building your immune system, there's nothing better than vegetables and American grown.
Okay, I have one more question left. We're running out of time, but have you noticed that between 2016 and 2020, in the Rio Grande Valley, or specifically in Roma, Texas, that there are more Latinos supporting Trump? And what are they telling you why they're doing that?
They definitely seem to be more vocal. I think the Democrat Party has embraced a lot of ideologies that are very leftist, socialist, and communist in theory. And the situations like Venezuela and Cuba, Cuban Americans migrating to Florida and Texas, I think is a big factor to people hearing what a big government overreach is like in communist and socialist countries.
Okay, is there any chance that you might change your mind and vote for Biden? Can there be something that Trump can do that would sway you? Like, I don't know, like be on a debate and call out a right-wing extremist organization to call to arms? Like, what would need for you to change your mind and vote for Biden?
I don't think there's a whole lot, unless Trump didn't like tacos de trompo, and he could easily just rebrand it and make it Trump tacos. But other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot that Biden could do, especially because of his track record, 47 years in office, and now he has the magic wand to all of a sudden all our problems go away. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Wasim, for joining. I asked a couple of your friends in Roma to join and to be on the show. They're Trump supporters, and they would not. Maybe they were too embarrassed to talk about. So I'm glad that you joined the show with us today to have the conversation. And good luck, and hopefully things will get better in my beloved Roma, Texas, one of the beautiful places.
I think they are getting better. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining us, Wasim Hernandez. Let's go now to Evelyn and Paul. I wanted to hear your comments on this. Evelyn, Paul, how are you guys doing tonight? New technology here at the Pinche Gringo Show. And of course, with new technology, everything shuts down. I was better with my webcam, Hector, but we're back in. I hope you guys can hear me. So you heard what I mean, right? You heard it. Heard.
The question is, thank you, Dan, for having us. But my question is, has Trump even had tacos de trompo? That's a good one for the next show.
Taco salads from Taco Bell. That's what he thinks is pretty Mexican. But listening to Wasim, what was going on in your mind, Evelyn?
Well, I think that, first of all, we have to look at the population of the United States. We have 60 million Latinos living in the United States, where 32 million are eligible to vote. And 2/3 of those 60 million are Mexican and Mexican Americans. And you know what? That's the beauty of us as Latinos. I mean, we come from different cultures. Within our cultures, we have subcultures. And within what we saw our colleagues speak about today, it's the whole conversation about socialism and communism. And personally, for me, I think it's a very deep insult when I'm a centrist, I'm a Democrat, I am a part of the Democratic Party because I believe in democratic values. So I think that it's just something that we have been seeing lately, and it's a massive disinformation campaign that focuses on scaring our Latino communities. And it's really sad to see this happening.
Yeah, I understand. Paul, we've been talking before the show about polling because I think there's been a certain, conversation in the news media that Latinos today in 2020 are more so supporting Trump than they were in 2016. And this is pretty fascinating because of all the rhetoric, even after the election into the midterms. It seems like his strategy in the midterm election was to, bring up the caravans and scare white people that Mexicans were coming, and it didn't work. And then now he's doing it with African Americans. But so these poll numbers are really strange. Like Quinnipiac, which is a very left-leaning polling, saying that more Latinos are voting for Trump this year. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the polls are they're right now they're kind of in this realm kind of all over the place. Just this week, we saw the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and Telemundo publish a poll that put Biden leading Trump at 62%, with Trump's 26%, which polls roughly where Trump was in 2016 in the competition against Hillary Clinton. Still, there are 12% of Latinos in this country are undecided. In the 2016 contest, that 12% sided with the Democratic Party. So I'm not really sure there's much cause for concern in this regard. But what I would point to, and this is something that Evelyn touched on, is that we kind of do ourselves a disservice when we talk about Latinos as a monolith. And the Latino vote, como tal, is a myth in U.S. electoral politics. And so I think what Joaquin was talking about, what Evelyn mentioned in her discussion of disinformation, we have to sort of tease apart why Latinos might be enticed to vote for someone like Donald Trump, despite the fact that he launched his candidacy, his presidential bid in 2015 with racist remarks directed against Mexicans and Mexican Americans, and especially migrants. And I think part of it comes down to social issues. A lot of Latino voters, or a lot of immigrants from Latin America who live in the United States, they tend to be very religious, evangelical, and Catholic. And for many of them, conservative positions on social issues may prove to be a more consequential voting criteria. Another aspect of this is that Quinnipiac also found in a poll earlier this month that only 1 in 4 Hispanic people in the United States identifies as a person of color. That sounds shocking to the casual observer of that poll. But what I think it points to is that Donald Trump's xenophobia and racism may not necessarily be as big a voting issue for Latinos as other things like class grievances. And I think what we've seen, spaces where Democrats have had the most traction among Latinos have been when their campaigns have revolved around things like healthcare, employment, and student debt.
Right. So I understand, Paul, that we can't think of Latinos as a whole, but there are some groups that are really going to make an impact on this election, and it's not that Latinos are going to, the majority will support Trump, but also there are counties in different battleground states. And let's go to your county or Miami-Dade County. I know you're Broward County, but Miami-Dade County, the Cuban American vote, and also the Colombian vote, right? The Venezuelan vote of people who are against the socialist regimes in these countries are drifting more towards Trump. And what they're saying in Florida is that he needs to win Miami and Broward County by a large margin in order to be able to win Florida. So what are you hearing down there in Florida? This is also happening in Texas, where Biden is coming within 1% of the vote, in Arizona, where there's a large Mexican population. So tell us, Evelyn, what's happening on the ground.
Well, we have to mix what's happening on the ground with the individuals who actually do the micro polling and focus on weighing in the samples of the polls that they do. Sometimes the polls that are done do not have large samples of Latinos. But from the samples that we have that are also, from Latino Decisions to ICR Ads Mobile, Venezuelans continue to mostly vote Democrat. Puerto Ricans, which we have around 700,000 that are eligible to vote in Florida, mostly vote Democrat. Now, it's interesting because now we have the Colombian Americans. I'm Colombian American. My husband's Mexican American. But the Colombian Americans, there's approximately, they say, 200,000 Colombian Americans registered to vote in Florida, where probably 100,000 are going to go out to vote. And within those 100,000, that's the 1% that, we lose or win Florida. So it's interesting because right now, once again, with the massive disinformation campaign that we're seeing within the WhatsApp groups, and recently Mark Caputo and Sabrina Rodriguez broke the story about QAnon. And it's interesting that you talked, Dan, and what we heard about the religion. I mean, this is the things that are in these videos, and what's happening is practically saying that, you know, that the Democrats are practically part of the Satanic Party, and the most crazy conspiracy theories that all involve George Soros. So right now, the Congress has asked the FBI to investigate these individuals and to find out who are the actors behind this, because it's called cheating, and we need to find out who they are. So that's where we're at right now here in the United States, and it's really really sad. This is where we're at.
Interesting. Paul, what does the Biden campaign do in the next month to ensure that Latino voters are being connected to and moving over to his camp? Because it looks like that not many people are undecided anymore. People are in their camps and there's not going to be too much sway. But is there a chance that there can be some movement here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, this goes back to sort of messaging or micro engagement at the level of different counties or different states and the different diaspora populations that live in them. But I think across the board, and even among Cuban Americans who have historically voted Republican, we're starting to see a sort of a generational shift or a generational change. And I think younger voters and younger Latino voters who massively favor Biden over Trump are going to be more attracted to a message that talks about what they're living day to day in the United States. That focuses on issues like healthcare, focuses on issues on like employment, focuses on issues like the coronavirus response. These are going to be the major voting issues, and then to the extent that the Biden camp can bring people in along those lines, I think that will be the most successful strategy for the Democrats going forward.
Absolutely, yeah. It was really interesting to hear Wasim holding the local government responsible for the healthcare crisis when, you know, state and national governments really failed on that, right? To be able to give them the resources in a region that is extremely poor and really needed those resources and help. So it's going to be an interesting election. I'm wondering how much the press is going to be taking that these Latino vote is and skewing it, of course, then what's the reality? And I guess we'll see the exit polls to see what happens. But Evelyn, Paul, thank you guys so much for joining us on the show today. Good luck in the last couple of weeks in working to get out the Latino vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, let's move over to the lovely. Sorry, Lila. That's Paul. That's Evelyn. There we go. No, you're all here. I love live TV, Lila. I am so looking forward. I don't know what was in the water today, Lila. Like, you know, we had perfect shows the last couple of weeks, but I keep on wanting to do a live show, and then this.
Don't worry, the debate was worse. It was messier. So don't worry.
Yeah, well, at least we only have 16 people like live watching right now, so it's like all these guys here, and
my mom doesn't care about this.
Lila, talk to me about the debate on Tuesday night. So we saw the video from Javier, and we're seeing that people were coming to the debate. What was the action there at the restaurant on Tuesday night?
Well, everybody was surprised because of the content of the debate, but what we did from our side, everybody was having a great time. Everybody was feeling safe. As you could see in Javi's video, we had a lot of space between tables. We have sanitized materials. So we are expecting that this debate, we make a support group. We have a lot of people there because we need to be together watching this.
I think I would have thrown something at the TV if I was there by myself watching. I needed like a support network of other Democrats. There wasn't any Republicans in the room, which is pretty amazing. Well, not really that amazing. So it was kind of like a Democratic, you know, like huddle here in Mexico City. But Evelyn is from the Miami area, and you can go to the debate and you can eat a delicious sandwich that has the name Miami in it. Am I right? Tell us more about it, Lila. It's my part of the show. And now we're in 4K. It's like you can see the whole thing. Tell me more about this sandwich.
So besides that reason that you just mentioned, I sent you this one because this is one of the sandwiches that we are going to have in our 2 new sandwich shops. We are opening this week a sandwich shop in Satélite. Yes, in Satélite. We opened a couple days ago another one in Mercado del Carmen in San Angel. So these stores are smaller than our regular restaurants, but they have service that our clients can stay there, can eat there. And we have a great sandwich menu. This is one of them, the Miami. It has ham, obviously made by us and our smokers, pulled pork, and Swiss cheese. How is it?
I don't think I've ever eaten it before. My entire life. This is the first time.
Really?
I think
You
so.
already done. Like, you should eat this every day.
I should
You're so happy to eat something.
that I would fit on the screen, and I gotta look good for the show.
You look amazing.
Thank
And
you.
barbecue does that.
Lala Garcia Mora, frequent Pinche Gringo show contributor and commercial director at Pinche Gringo. I always got food in my mouth today, but this does it for the edition of the Pinche Gringo show. Join us next week as we analyze the vice presidential debate and all of the 2020 election night coverage. Hopefully we won't have any technical issues. Thanks for being patient with us. Same place, same time, same YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us.
Pinche Gringo, Mexico is laughing thanks to you. We like to watch you dance salsa and listen to your bad Spanish too. We like to watch you almost die from spicy food. Ooh.